Hello, folks, and welcome to today's stamp class. I'll give it just a second or two for maybe somebody to pop on so that we can officially begin, right? How's everybody doing? Has summer finally set in where you live? Slowly but surely, it's warming up here in the Boise area of Idaho. But, lots of summer salads and barbecues in the horizon for you. I know they are for me. We have some plans, so it's fun to welcome in a new season. And so my mom is on. Hello, mother. So once I have somebody on, then I can officially begin with good Thursday morning and welcome to Seeing Ink Spot's Backstage Pass, where today's class is called Use It Up. And in this Use It Up class, I am focusing on the Countryside Corners Suite Collection that's new in our annual catalog. And so it has a stamp set, but it's they call it a stamp set, but it's a single stamp. So we'll take a closer look at that. And the dies that match that, those to me are the real superstar of the suite collection. There's a pack of DSP, and if you love the color blue, this monochromatic pack of DSP is fabulous. It's got adorable little hidden foxes and rabbits and florals, and it's really cool. The last thing in this suite collection that's a part of the suite collection is the Countryside Blossoms embossing folder. And so you'll see a look at that as well. Hello, Kayleen. I'm not sure who else is on with me today at this time. There's four of you. There's my mom, Catherine, and Kayleen, and there's two others, and I didn't quite see who those were, but say hello. Get those comments flowing so that they'll populate on my end and that I can see those. Okay, so let's get going with a little bit of what's coming up in the near future here in the Seeing Ink Spots page and Backstage Pass. And then let's stamp. Okay, here comes the obnoxious hand. And we'll switch the camera there so that we can see what's going on here. Okay, I wish there were a way to make that more smooth, but there just isn't. Okay. So today's class, like I mentioned, is the Countryside Corners. And coming up next week at this time, so 1 week from today, is our pickup class. This is where you're going to bring your own supplies and a stamp set. So the stamp set I'm going to use is Pansy Patch, and then I'm going to use the Pansy dies that match this. Never fear, if you don't have this, grab your own set of, grab a floral set that has, and when I say set, I should say bundle. Grab a floral bundle and sit down and create with me. I'm going to be using, I'm not quite sure what papers I'll use, if any. Maybe I'll take a look at some of the delightfully eclectic papers because there's some fun summer prints in that. Definitely bring your blending brushes and some cardstock because we're going to be making some pretty things with the Pansy Patch bundle. That will be next Thursday at 10 a.m. Okay. That will be coming to you from San Jose. That's where I'll be next week. And also the week after that, that class will be coming from San Jose as well. And so porch stamping, if you're in San Jose, will be at my parents' house in Almaden Valley. But our technique class for this month is called Timeless Arrangements, and it is a fabulous bundle. Here is the stamp set, and then the dies are fantastic. They are super, super cool. We're going to take a closer look at those. In fact, I do have our cards here for the class. I'm just kind of arranging them so you can see a little bit of a sneak peek here. We've got some pretty things coming up. Yep, went through those fast. That was just a little sneak peek. Get you motivated to sign up for that class. I still have a few spaces left, and it's going to be fun. They're really, really pretty cards. And it's really focusing quite intensely on the bundle itself. I don't really, I go a little bit out on a couple other sets, of dies, but not much. Okay, so that's technique time. Tomorrow's the last day to register for a kit. Obviously, you can join and watch the class if you'd like, but I'd love it if you'd stamp along with me. And also coming up, you can earn this class, this Timeless Arrangements class, for free with a purchase of $50. Will get you the Timeless Arrangements class. If you order $75 on the current host code, it's going to get you the Technique Time class and my Use It Up kit for July, which is going to be just my type. So that will be in 1 month. This will be our Use It Up class. And what I'm going to do is I am going to pair this with the Delightfully Eclectic Designer Series paper. So it's going to be a fun, spunky, summery little class. So that's how you can get that class. The only way to get this kit for free is with a $75 purchase, but everybody can join along and watch. Okay, so that's coming up. Also in July, let's see what's coming up in July. We have our pickup class in July is going to be the So Refreshing bundle. Okay, this is a stamp bundle that when I first saw it, I went, oh, really? And then I got to using it and I went, love it. It's super fun. So that's coming up. And, oh, these are the dies for So Refreshing. And then our technique time for July will be the Cheerful Daisies bundle. And you guys, this is a fantastic, very cool set of dies that has a nice, they're just really detailed and they give you a lot of layering looks for just a little bit of effort. So that's what's coming up. Hopefully that piques your interest and you'll want to sign up for some of those classes for sure. Put them on your calendar. Now on with the show. Let's go on with our Countryside Corners class. These are some pretty projects today. We are definitely in a monochromatic color palette because I am using the Countryside in DSP. I'm using several of these pieces here. And I just think this is really fun paper. So this is when I said there's some little foxes hidden in and amongst the florals and the leaves. Okay, and there's this one. And well, I should show you the back of this one. It's kind of a nice, it's not a polka dot. It's actually a little mini flower. Okay, so and here's another print. This one's very similar to the embossing folder. There's a stripe and a polka dot on the back. Here's one with the rabbits. The back side of that is a fun floral stripe pattern. Here's another pattern. It's actually floral, okay? And then I think we're using this side, if I remember correctly. Yes, Kayleen, I love these blues. And I know, I'm not sure if Pat Tate will end up watching this class, but I think of her every time I see these papers because I know that Pat loves navy blues and all kinds of mixes of blues. So anyhow, moving right along, what else is in my kit here that we're using up? I am using up, this is some navy twine. If you remember back when we had there was a suit that was for the men for like a Father's Day. It had a tie and it had different papers that looked like shirt and tie patterns. There was some twine from that sweet collection. So this is that navy twine. If you don't have navy twine, just use linen thread. And then I'm using up some opal rounds. I had a bunch of these. So we're using up opal rounds. And these that I'm using up, these are navy blue, little tiny gems, gem dots. They're plasticky. These were from the Happiness Abounds. So they're a couple years old. So we're using those up. And then I have some papers here that we've just got a variety of cardstocks in Night of Navy, Misty Moonlight, Balmy Blue, Boho Blue, and White. So that's what I'm using. I put that in our list earlier. Okay. So let's see. Let me keep some things in places where I can see where they are. So I have them handy for another project. Okay, I also, I do have a piece. You have a piece, if you have a kit, it's about a 1-inch wide piece of natural ribbon. This was recently retired out of the catalog, and I've actually cut mine in half. So half of it's missing. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or not. We'll see. I think I will. I'm planning to, but sometimes it gets a little bulky. And I used in my original prototype, I used something else. Okay, so for our first card, let's see what we're going to use here. Our first card, we're going to use a Knight of Navy card base. So this card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So that's a no-brainer. So cut yourself half a sheet of Knight of Navy. We'll use that. And then DSP-wise, you could use any DSP because you might not be using the same pack I am using. I'm going to use this pretty piece right here. Okay, so we're going to layer that on. And this piece right now is 4 by 6. 4 by 6, but we're going to trim it down to 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so, and we will set these 2 or 3 pieces of DSP. We'll set those aside. We're not going to use those. But I have a small sheet of, this is a 1/4 sheet of boho blue. I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to use a 1/4 sheet of basic white. Okay. And I actually think this is 4 by 5 1/4. You know, actually it's 4 by 5.5. But anyways, it's just, I had some scraps. I'm using up scraps that were on my desk. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Let's start out easy. Get we'll warm up. We'll do our Stampin' Up warm up via the trimmer here. And let's take this designer series paper and cut it down to be 4 by 5 1/4. And so this piece here, we're going to use this on the card for sure. Okay. So let's just start by gluing this to the card front. Real basic and easy here. Okay, I've got my usual rigmarole here that we have to do every time. Okay, this is such a cool piece of paper, but I wanted just a little bit more pattern in my card here. Either side is great. Use what you enjoy. Okay. And so this is just going to be, you know, a no-brainer here. We're going straight centered on our card base. Easy enough, right? And let's see. Next, what I want to do is we're going to do a little bit of stamping. This piece here, I'm just going to, you guys, you know when you cut it on our trimmer, how it kind of folds the paper over microscopically? I'm just using my fingernail to kind of press that back forward. But this piece is going to stretch across here. Don't glue it down just yet. But we're going to do some stamping with the countryside corners. And I love it when they call our background stamps stamp sets. This one, though, while it is one single stamp, it is multiple stamp images. And so, you know, you can see in the catalog, they've stamped the whole thing and they die cut different parts of it. But I'm actually going to bring in my Knight of Navy Stampin' Right marker, and I'm going to do a little bit of just inking up what I want. And so I want this dotted frame right here. And what's cool about this stamp image is each of these frames, whoops, got a little on something I didn't want. Each of these frames has a, I'll call it a countryside corners die to match, okay? So each one of these can be cut out, which is really cool. And that's what I love. I love these images because there's all kinds of dies that fit them. Okay, now with my piece of basic white here, I'm just going to put that off to the edge and use my fingers to get a good impression. So rather than stamping, we are pulling a print here. And that's what it means when you're like doing like printmaking and things in like my brother took a printmaking class years ago in college, and that's what they do is they make their print, then they put the inks and paints on, and then they put the paper on top and they pull the print. So rather than stamp an image, we're pulling a print. And so that's how I'm using this large image, is I'm just leaving it right in my case, you can see, and I'm not putting it on a block. You absolutely could. Excuse me. You would have to put it on the biggest block that we have, but I think, hey, this works just fine, nice and spiffy, to just leave it right there in the case. And now what we can do is find the die. So here are my dies. There, I have them in my magnetic bowl, my Harbor Freight bowl, magnetic bowl. So now you're going to find the die that coordinates with that piece, and that's that one right there. And we're going to die cut this out. Now, I've been using Post-it label tape here. I like it better than Scotch tape and washi tape. But this, sometimes when you have like a flower, there's a little bit of forgiveness on if your die moves or something. But for this, because it's so definitely, you've got these straight lines, you can tell when it like slightly gets off. In fact, I have a few here that I've done ahead of times that have gotten slightly off. So I'm just using this Post-it labeling tape to hold my die in place, and I'll run it through the machine here. Lots of cracks and creaks here. Okay, and so we'll just kind of pop this out. The tape is holding on for dear life. There we go. And there you have it. My label tape, it doesn't usually do this, but it's left, I think because I'm using a Big Shot plate with my Stampin' Cut Emboss machine, so it's really a tighter fit than normal. Okay. Clean up all that gizmo stuff, but look how fun, how cool is that? So we're gonna kind of start with some layering here, and now we're gonna do the exact same thing, only this time I'm gonna use a different image and a different size die. We're gonna still do Night of Navy, and on the boho blue, so that was the polka dot, that was the second frame. Now I'm going to do the third frame. So if we go from the inside, 1, 2, 3, this is a floral frame here. And I'm going to color this one. Okay. And when I'm using like a Stampin' Right marker on an image here, obviously you're using the brush tip end. And you're going to want to go over the image a couple times and go in different directions. Okay? That way, because your tip has an angle, you're getting both sides. Hey, Vivian's on. Vivian, hello. Awesome to have you here today for a few minutes, hopefully. Kathleen says, this is one of the reasons why you wish you had the markers. Yes, so the markers can be purchased in color families or all together. But yes, I do like the markers. This is an older one, so this is the older tip, So the tips have been changed currently with the newer ones. So there's my floral border here, and you can see I picked up a little ink that didn't get cleaned from the other, but that's not going to matter because this one's going to lay down on top of it. So I'm not going to worry too much about that just now. So we'll do the same drill we just did, and we'll find the die that matches. It's going to be the one just bigger than the one we just used. Yes, Kathleen, I do like using markers direct to, so the direct to rubber technique. What I do find, though, is that, there are certain colors I use way more than others. But be sure you're not trying, don't try using your blends on your rubber, okay? You don't want that alcohol on your stamp image because I don't think it's gonna come off if you run it through that way. Okay, so I'm gonna run this one through now. My boho blue. This boho blue color sure is nice. I think it's really, really nice. Okay, so here's my next little frame here. I'll take this out. Save this, we're gonna use more of that. And even though I used tape, because I did it crooked, we've got a little bit, we're a little bit off, but that's okay. Okay, so this is how I'm going to layer my pieces. And what I want to do though first is I'm going to glue, I'm just gonna run a little bit of glue here. And I'm gonna add, so here's where, you know what? I did my pieces backwards. This was supposed to be blue and this was supposed to be white. Oh, well. This is gonna be opposite of my prototype. This is gonna kind of sit down below here. And then this is going to stretch across, but it's going inside there. But why haven't I glued this down just yet? Because on my original, I glued it down and I feel like it's lacking a little bit of dimension. So this time I'm actually gonna do this with dimensionals here, okay? So I'm doing dimensionals on that piece of DSP and on my label here, okay? So something like that. And then we'll flip that over. That's too funny that I did it reversed. It'll look fine. It's just gonna look a little bit different than my original. I will show you that in just a second once we get going with things. So here is just kind of how this is going to set. Yeah, I do. I like that with just a little bit more dimension. And now we're gonna glue this one on. But look how fun these layers frame. And that's, to me, the charm of this countryside corners. That's the fun of that. So there's that so far. Now we're going to do some stamping back on this piece. And I decided, that I needed, there's with this countryside corners, this is a great stamp for creating, places and backgrounds for your card images, right? So you've got to pair it with something else. And I thought I would pair it with Sentimental Park because I know a bunch of you had it because we had a stamp camp with this sweet collection. So I'm using the Sentimental Park images to kind of give myself a focal point on my cards here. And so I'm using the leaf image and the multiple little flowers here. And I'm gonna stamp the leaves in Balmy Blue. Okay, and I'm just gonna stamp that right on my piece of white here. So there's Balmy Blue. And I can, don't close your pad, keep your pad handy, and you'll see why in just a second here. And then I'm going to use Night of Navy. Okay, and we'll stamp the image, all these multiple flowers. Okay, so we'll just kind of put that right there like that. Okay, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna die cut those images out. And I've done that ahead of time, so you don't have to sit here and watch me die cut some images. So once you have your flowers stamped, we're gonna color these. And we're gonna color these, you could color these with Stampin' Blends or however you wanna do it. But what we haven't used in a very long time is a blender pen. So I'm opening up my ink pads. Here's Boho Blue and Balmy Blue. And here are my images. And I'm going to use a blender pen. I have not pulled out blender pens in such a long time. But, so with your blender pen, and these pens you get 3 in a pack, and each pen is dual tipped, right? And what's fun is to take your ink here and just pick up a little bit of ink. And I'm just going to color, and I'm not going to color the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of do a simple swoosh of color here and there. Okay? That way I think it gives it just a little bit more dimension. It doesn't have to be so filled in. And with a blender pen, it almost lends to a chalky look. Almost like the old pastels in a way. Yet it's more translucent than if you were to use, say, a marker. And it's even less, you know, I think you can see through it even more than you can if you were using, say, Stampin' blends. Okay. Although this isn't alcohol based, it's a little different. So I'm just kind of swooshing this around through my blossoms here. And I'm still using the Balmy Blue. And you can see you have to kind of reload every now and again. But what's going to be pretty here in just a second is I'm going to start mixing in some boho blue. And that just, to me, gives it just a little bit more dimension. That adding that second color in, and while I'm going to add this second color in, like I'm going to start here with the berries, but I'm also going to put it into the flowers here. And that's, to me, when things start to get just a little bit more interesting. Because, you know, something natural and, you know, organically isn't just always kind of a one color. And I find when I do this with blends and with, you know, something like this, when I start to kind of mix the color, it adds more depth and more variety, and it's interesting. So that's why I'm mixing the colors here and there. And so if you try that in real life, it's fun to see that mix of the blues kind of coming together. Okay, so now with this, I'm going to add my flower here to my layout. And we're going to add these. Let me close these up. We're going to add them with dimensionals, of course. So I have some minis and some regular on hand here. So I'm going to do, whoops, kind of picked up an extra little cover there. So I've got a mini there, and I find when I'm working with this Sentimental Journey, Sentimental Park rather, kit, that you kind of need the minis and the regulars on hand. Okay, so I'm gonna start, we'll put our flower stem here, right? And because this stem has kind of got a little bit of a curve to it, I'm gonna follow that curve with my flowers. So they're not like straight up in the center, they're kind of going this way, like so. But isn't that pretty? I like how these blues kind of just bounce off of our papers here. It's kind of fun. Okay, so moving right along, this needs a greeting, and we need some embellishments and whatnot. So our greeting, I'm going to use one of the greetings from Sentimental Park, and I'm going to use this little tiny Best Wishes. And I'm using that Best Wishes on this tiny little banner. So the inside, so you have all these frames in the countryside corners, and then you get this cute little teeny tiny banner. So I have die cut that banner from a piece of Balmy Blue. So there's a little tiny Balmy Blue banner, and it's just the right size for this Best Wishes. Here's Best Wishes. The blocks have been stacked together and not cleaned. And I'm going to stamp that with Night of Navy. And let me show you something that's going on with these stamps though. When you have these teeny tiny little stamp images here, I want you to be sure that you're inking up gently and just tapping your image. okay? And that's how you're going to get a nice crisp image. I barely touched my paper. Let me show you what happens if you ink up too much and if you push too hard, okay? That's what's happening. And I don't know about you folks. Come on, camera, focus here. It's having a hard time focusing, partly because it's never going to focus on that because it's blown out, you know, it's been over stamped. So gently ink up and gently stamp. Just use, you know, almost no effort. Okay, so clean your image. We'll try this one more time. So when I ink up, I'm just going to tap. I am barely letting the weight of the block ink up this image. Then I'm going to bring in my little dude here and hope for the best. And just touch. Okay. Ah, nice. Nice and clean. Okay, so that's how you're going to get those crisp images on something that's so tiny like this. Hello, Lynn. She says, catching you from southern New Jersey. Woohoo! Awesome. Oh, man. Hold on. We're going to have a catastrophe here. Do you guys do this sort of thing? And then you're like, how am I getting blue ink on everything? And then you look at your hands. Ah, that's how. Yep. All right. So, Lynn, awesome to have you here. Everybody who's here, awesome to have you here. Okay. So, and if you guys have tips for stamping some images, the smaller ones like that, let me know what you guys do. I'd love to hear some tips. Okay, so this is going to kind of work across right in here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is we're going to, because it's on two different levels here, it's on the, we've got our little banner here on the leaf, and then it's teeter-tottering right now. We're going to just put dimensional on that one side. And so what I'm going to do, and I know this mini fits, but it doesn't fit. It's like it's just a hair too long or hair too wide. So I've cut my mini down the middle, and now it shouldn't show. Okay, so we've put those right there. And I'm not going to stick that on just yet because I'm going to go to my linen thread here. And so if you have a kit, take your linen thread and chop it in half. Okay, so we're just going to chop this in half. And so when chopping this in half, let's see how this piece ends up being. Sure, I'm on metric side here. It ends up being about 11 inches, okay? So you're gonna take that 11-inch piece, and I'm just gonna make 2 bunny ears and tie it. And then, you know, you've gotta style your bow. But get your bow tied. Okay. Get it fairly even. Ah. Julie's on. And I'm going to add my bow right there. And then this is going to kind of come across. So before I tack that bow, or before I attach my little teeny tiny banner there, we're going to attach the bow here. So I am working with the new tools attachment on my Take Your Pick tool. So this is the hobby blade. I really like this hobby blade a lot. And I'm just gonna pick up one of these glue dots and set that right there by the leaf. And then this end here, we decided this was called the plaque remover. This little tool right here, it's kind of wicked, so beware. But it's great for things like pulling off little dimensional covers or picking out of, out of a die cut, picking some of the stuff out that kind of hangs around. Okay, so fabulous. Love those new tool attachments for your Take Your Pick. But we'll put that knot right there on our glue dot. Paper pumpkin glue dots, you know me. I've gotten mad at the boxed ones. Kayleen, why did you use a marker on the red rubber instead of a stamp pad? Wait, I'm missing something. I used the marker because I only wanted a certain amount to show. I didn't want to ink up the entire thing. Okay, I probably need a little bit of glue behind this end of things. It does look like a dental tool. That's why me and Jen Mallet, and I think it was Karen, we were calling it the plaque remover. The plaque remover tool, because it's a little like vicious looking. Yeah, so Jolinda, I'll be doing more of the using a marker on the red rubber in just a minute. Okay, so I'm not quite done with this one. I am gonna use a little bit of Wink of Stella because we can, we love her, right? I'm gonna do just a little bit of painting on my flowers and the leaves. Give them just a little extra shimmer, right? And then we have all of these fun big old dots right here, right? So I'm going to use some of these. I'm going to use 3 of them, and I'm going to go back to my hobby blade here. And so I'm just going to pick these up, and I'm going to do one on this side, and we'll do one on the opposite side, and one more right next to it. So kind of a different layout. You know, you could kind of spread these out however you'd like, but I thought this was just kind of a different approach. Just kind of putting a little bling right there through the center. It kind of highlights the greeting itself. But there you have it. We're using up some of that old twine and using up the opal rounds. And there you have it. You know what? I like this better. Here, let me show you my original here. When I said, oops, I reversed the frame. So here is the frame with the white and the boho. And then here it is with the reverse. So either one works great. But it's a fun little card. Using some things up and then having some fun with these countryside corners. So there's our first one and done. Way to go. Give myself a pat on the back. Let's make another card featuring these same tools. So same colors, same stamps, ink pads, you name it. Our next card that we're going to do, oh, I like this card a lot coming up. We're going to use a balmy blue card base, and just like our first card, we're going to do an 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So Kayleen says she likes today's better too. I agree. Also, let me just kind of go back to it. Remember how I said I wanted more dimension? So I have this whole section up on dimensionals, and this one is glued flat. So that's another reason why I think you might like that, is because this is standing out just a little bit more. So yeah, when in doubt, pop it out. I agree, Kayleen. I like it better too. All right, card number 2, balmy blue, 8.5 by 5.5, 4 1/4. And then I also had some scraps. This is how wide is this? This is a 3.5 or 3 1/4. It's about 3 3/8 by 5.5. What this is sometimes when you have like a full sheet of paper, and I'll just kind of bring this piece. This is a full sheet of copy paper. Sometimes I'll do a card that takes like an entire sheet of cardstock, so you only get one out, and it leaves this long strip. And that's what this is I end up having these long strips from cards that are bigger than just a half a sheet of cardstock. So I'm using up some of these pieces, these long strips. So we're using that. And then we're also going to be using some of our white. Okay, so we've got some white that we're going to use. And then DSP-wise, we're going to use my favorite piece of DSP in this, and that is this piece with the little foxes. And so right now, this is 4 by 6, and we're going to trim it down. Okay, and so let's trim this down to be And I'm gonna try and I'm gonna trim down this side. I'm gonna trim this down to be 4 by 5 1/4, okay? 4 by 5 1/4. It's that magic measurement, right? Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different than our first card. What I'm gonna do is we're actually gonna cut a frame out of this using our countryside corners. And I have to figure out which frame we are using so I don't use the wrong one. Okay, I believe it's going to be this one. Yes. Okay, so this is the largest. This one is the second largest. So I'm using the second largest to cut a hole in my piece here, okay? Then I'm also going to be using the piece just below that for another cut. So we're gonna be using those two for right now. And let's just do this one first. I'm gonna use these 2 pieces of tape here. And I'm going to center this in my paper. So just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be, I mean, if you want to measure, you can. But let's just hold this in place. Okay. And we'll run this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I gotta get it closer to me so I'm not stretching across trying to... That was my error last time. Okay. Just checking to make sure it looks pretty straight. Okay. So, what's nice about this is a nice big old frame, and we're going to use this on our next card. So don't get rid of that. Keep that handy. Okay. So there's that. That is done. Now what I want to do, let me just kind of move these papers out. We're gonna stamp this one right here. And so we're going to stamp with our countryside corners. And again, I'm gonna leave the stamp in the case and I will be pulling a print. But first, we need to clean it because that's not the one I want. Okay. Okay, just trying to get it good and clean. The image that I want, and I'm going to use Night of Navy again, is I want this second image, and it's like this triple stitching. Okay, so if this is the first, I want this second one. And I'm just going to kind of dry this because a chamois on red rubber is not the same as on photopolymer when you're cleaning. Okay, so again, I'm going to go and give this a couple layers of ink here. And I am giving it a couple layers of ink in both directions. And yes, I'm picking up some other color, like I'm getting a little over here, but not to worry because that's not going to show. Okay, couple directions. Now just this lower half, couple back and forth. Okay, now I'm not licking my stamp. I'm going to pick this up and give it a little bit of a huff just to invigorate that. And I'm going to center my blue paper. No, don't center it, but get it down to one end so that you can use this other end to cut banners and whatnot. You'll see in just a minute. Okay. Hello, Terry. So Jolinda, that's why I was using a marker instead of an ink pad, was because I only wanted a certain section to be inked up. Okay. Ooh, I hope I haven't gotten too close right there. Make it work. Okay, now I'm going to take the die that fits inside of this one. Hashtag good morning. Love it. So use the die that's going to set inside rather than the one that goes to the outside. I'm just pulling a couple of pieces of these, this Post-it tape. Okay, and so the die is going to sit right on that stitching line. But we're going to cut this out, run that through the machine. So this time, instead of cutting the design out, we're actually cutting the inside out. We're creating a mat for our piece here. Okay, so we're creating a frame. Keep this, you could totally use it. This piece here, we're gonna take the die off, okay? And I'm gonna trim the side down because we don't need that. So we're just gonna trim that right off. Okay, and now this piece is going to set right inside there. That's what I was saying, we're going to mat the piece, okay? So, and this is going to glue directly on to this layer. So what I'm gonna do is just do a little glue in these corners because I know that's not going to show. Okay, and now I'm just gonna kind of wiggle this in place, get a good mat on there, like so. And we'll just kind of rub right in the corners where the glue was. Now, what are we gonna do about this? This is kind of ugly for the inside of your card, but not to worry, we're gonna fix that right up. We're gonna take some dimensionals and we're going to add some dimensionals around the edge here. You could use, in fact, on my original, I used the strips kind of all the way around this, but I find this to be just a little too much dimension. It's more than what I prefer. So that's why I'm going to use dimensionals this time. And I'm not making a shaker card or anything, although you totally could. I just want some dimension, but I don't want too much dimension. Some folks have cut the red rubber octagon stamp apart into individual rings. I guess using good sharp tools, even thought it came pre-cut. No, it doesn't. And you know what? Here's the deal. Okay, great. Some people have been able to cut it apart. I wouldn't, because you were never going to get that to line up just right on your stamp blocks or whatever. I mean, you would have to put the other images in to hold its shape. Do you know, if you just did a ring of this, it would be distorted and it wouldn't fit your die. So I recommend this method of using a marker, okay? That would be, because yeah, it'd be fun to cut it apart, and I'm not afraid to cut stamp images apart. However, when it's so big like this and it's so straight, I just wouldn't want to screw up the mechanics of making things work right. Okay, all right, so now this piece, I'm going to layer it on the inside of my card so it has an even border all the way around. And so now we've covered up our mechanics and the front has a little bit of dimension, all right? I am going to give a little bit of a burnish because we've got a layer inside the card. Now it sets down. Look how fun this is. I really enjoy the look of this. Okay. So for this, I'm going to use more of my white. We're going to use some white, and we're going to use a little bit in our kit here. There was a 1/4 sheet of Misty Moonlight. So I have a 1/4 sheet of Misty Moonlight here and a 1/4 and the rest of my white. And so I'm going to take the image, right? We're going to clean that stitching line because we don't want that. We're going to stamp some other things here. So, just coming all the way around here. Hopefully, you guys let me know, did it make sense why I wouldn't cut mine apart? I think maintaining the integrity of the shape is why I wouldn't cut mine apart. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use Balmy Blue. So this is my Balmy Blue marker. And I'm going to color this inside little frame here. Okay, thanks, Terry. I am bringing, for those in San Jose, I am bringing this set with me so that my mom can use it. If you would like to do a Sisterhood of the Traveling Stamps, I would totally be willing to make that happen. Okay, if you don't have these. Okay, so this one, I'm gonna just kind of set my paper right on there and pull a print, just like so, and we'll die cut that. And so this one is our tiniest frame here. It's this one right here. And we'll just die cut that out. But you know what? For time's sake, folks, I have one done ahead of time, just so you don't have to sit and watch me do that. So that one's done, okay? And now let's do the same thing, only we're gonna use a different color and a different frame and the Misty Moonlight. So it means I need to clean my stamp, okay, because I don't want that to show. And I'm gonna switch back to Night of Navy, and I'm gonna color the dotted one again. I like this dotted one. Actually, I like them all. The only one I haven't used is this, well, I haven't used this outer dot either. I guess I better get to it. Give the stamp some love, equal love, right? Okay. So again, I'm just going around trying to be sure that I've gone in both directions and a couple covers, layers. I'm going to huff on it and give it a rub. There you have it. Isn't that just kind of a fun image? Okay, and we're going to die cut that, and that's going to be with the second smallest die, and I've done that ahead of time too, just so you don't have to sit there and watch me do that. Okay, so these are going to come in like so. I'm going to go back to my my Misty Moonlight here, and now I'm busting into more of the Sentimental Park dies. So if you guys remember this was a fun camp. We know this stamp set and set of dies really well. There's the other die I want. So I'm looking for, excuse me, I need to take a drink here in a second. These are the two dies I'm looking for. Sorry, folks. All I can think of is Star Wars. These are not the droids you're looking for. These are the dies you're looking for. Okay, so cut 3. Cut 1 large and a couple small, or a couple large and 1 small, or just cut a bunch of flowers. And actually, we're not going to cut these out of Misty Moonlight. I'm incorrect. We're going to cut them out of our scrap of boho blue. So I would just run these through twice. That way you have 4. You're not going to use all 4, but you might want to put it on the inside. But I've done that ahead of time, just again, for time's sake. Okay, so I have a 1, a 2, and 3. Okay, so those are done. And the other thing we're gonna die cut is we're gonna go to our scrap of Balmy Blue. And this one right here, I'm trying to find my scrap of Balmy Blue. Where did it go? I die cut it off. Okay, well, you have a scrap of Balmy Blue from this. You're gonna die cut 2 of these, okay? So I've done that ahead of time. I have 2 little banners, so that's what I'm using for this card. That will be everything, along with a little bit of stamping. So I'm gonna bring in Night of Navy. And if you remember from that stamp camp, I loved the Dear Friend image. We used that one a lot. So you could use Dear Friend or Thanks, Thinking of You, whichever you'd like. But I'm going to use the Dear Friend image because I like this one. And let's see here. We'll take off the best wishes. So we're done with that one. We'll put dear friend on. And it looks like this block is not big enough. I could make it work, but... So I'm going to pull off let's celebrate for now. We'll put dear friend. And I'm going to put my stamp down. It's face down. And I'm going to pick it up with my block. That way it's... the photopolymer there's like muscle memory in the photopolymer. So I'm just trying to get its original shape. So Kayleen says, I agree. Don't cut it apart. I mean, those are too skinny to make it effective. Use the markers. Yep. Okay. So I've just gently inked up dear friend, and I'm going to stamp that inside this. Okay. And I like the look of that frame and how it layers over top. It doesn't have to exactly fit. I like that it's kind of, it integrates because it overlaps a little bit. Okay, so I'm just cleaning dear friend and putting that away. And I'm put let's celebrate back on just so we're ready for our last card. Okay, that is now... I think all of my pieces that I want to have handy here. I'm going to close this because we don't want to muck anything up, right? And for now, I'm going to move this out of the way, but I'll keep everything else kind of right here. And I'm going to give this a splatter with Wink of Stella. So shake your Wink of Stella, okay? And over scratch paper, kind of do the... This is why we do it over scratch paper, but I'm going to go ahead and splatter my card and everything. And I'm actually, since it leaked out so much bunch right here, I'm going to use that. So we're just giving all of our images a good splattering, except for this one, because sometimes the Wink of Stella, it sometimes bleeds your greeting. So that's why I was kind of holding off on that one. Okay, so get out. We're going to put dimensionals on this for sure, right? We'll do a couple right there. And we'll set this down right in the center. Oh, we're losing our foxes. My originals, the foxes were down lower and you see them. Oh, well, that's okay. Okay, so there's that. This is where I think I'm going to use, so if you remember, we had a piece of the natural ribbon. So this is cut in half, and then this piece here is a quarter of it. So it's like I'm going to cut this down one more time, and that's what I did for this piece here. So we're going to take this, and I don't think I'm going to tie it. I think I'm going to just do it like an S curve. We'll just do an S curve right in here. Get it small enough so it's not so overpowering. And so you could tie it in a bow, but sometimes that knot makes a little bit more bulk than what you want. Okay, so there is that. Now let's take this guy and let's glue that down. And you know what? I'm just going to use a tiny piece of Scotch tape just to hold my ribbon down, right? And then hopefully, yep, it'll cover it. Okay, so we'll do a couple dimensionals here. And cover up our Scotch tape. Okay, and sometimes I like to use my dimensionals to kind of arrange my ribbons just a little bit. And obviously we'll cut this one end off. I don't need this big giant piece. And I'm going to angle this one. Okay. And now we're going to add our little die cuts here. So each of these flowers is going to go on with a dimensional. Okay, so I'll do some minis on the littler guy and I'll do a big on this one. Okay, so these are now ready. And then with these pieces here, I'm going to cut them in half. So chop it in half and then give it a glue. Okay, so we're just kind of gluing these together like so. And then I'm going to tuck this inside there. Okay, a little bit of glue. Oh, the dogs are going to go out and bark. There they go. So a little bit right there. See, I just kind of have them. And then we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. I like little banners kind of sticking out. They're kind of fun. Okay, so little. And we'll do the same thing. So this one's kind of down, so I'm going to do this one above. There you have it. Get that to stick. Angle it just a little different. Okay, there we have it. Now our flowers are going to go like so. We'll do a flower here and a flower in here, and then one more up here. Okay, and then last, let's go back to our big, huge dots here, these opal dots. And there's a couple sizes in there. Here's a large one. So I'll put a larger one on that. And you know what? I'm going to do one more dimensional. Got to pull this off. Got to even out my flower was tilting. So I'm just doing an extra layer right in here so that my flower, there we go. Now it's sitting flat. And then I'm going to use these smaller opal dots on the flowers, the littler flowers. Okay. Cool. Okay. So the difference with this one and my original, let me show you my original. It's almost exactly the same. However, I used some of the jute twine, the boho blue jute twine. So that was just kind of the difference. And my foxes show in this one. So just might want to make sure your foxes show if you can. But there's another one using the countryside corners, yet creating a matte frame. And there's some fun dimension in there. So hopefully you like that one. I like this one. I think it's kind of fun. I really, really like the way we always kind of layer up, and this was kind of more of a layer down inside. So it's just kind of a fun look, a little bit different. Okay, so we're still using the same exact items for our last card. This time we are going to need, my card base is a half a sheet of Misty Moonlight. And instead of the other size we've been doing, this is 4 1/4 by 11, and I've scored it at 5 1/2. So mega basic there. And our DSP for this card, we're going to use a couple pieces of DSP. We're going to use the rabbits, okay? And we're going to use this stripe piece. In fact, I like doing this. I like adding stripes with prints, stripes and dots and plaids. I think it's kind of fun. So I'm just cutting myself a 1/2 inch strip of the stripe pattern. This you can save for another card. Then we'll make this be 5 1/2 inches long, the length of the card. And then our rabbits here, I'm going to trim the rabbits to be, right now it's 4 by 6. I'm going to take it down to 4 by 5 1/2. Okay, so there's that. And so real basic here, I'm just going to cover the entire front of the card with the DSP. So here's my DSP. Now I will share that the print that I'm putting the glue on right now, it does coordinate, it does match the embossing folder. And I'll show you that in just a second here on this scrap of paper. You have to trim your 12 by 12 paper just right for it to fit in the folder, but I'll show you what I mean. So this pattern here, if you match this, this floral image right there, you'll notice that the floral image, and you match that up, it starts to, you have to get it the right direction. You have to get the right pattern. There you go. So your dots in the embossing folder, so if you had a larger piece of this, you can see how all these flowers are lining up with the DSP. You might have to turn it and get it facing the right direction, but that does match. In fact, we're not using this piece, but I think I'm going to emboss it right now just so that we can see what it looks like. So when you're embossing with the Countryside Borders, or so Countryside Blossoms folder, this is not a 3D folder. So with this embossing, you're going to use your #1 plate. You're going to use a clear plate, your embossing folder, and then another clear plate on top. And mine is obviously not a clear plate. I need a new set of plates. But let's look and see how this is. It may have shifted just a little. Oh, it did. It shifted. But you guys, if you're more careful than what I just was, you can see how everything lines up. And oh, that makes this paper so fancy. I think I'm definitely going to have to do, I know you guys can't see it, but it's really, really cool. Just know that this print does match your folder here. Okay. But speaking of folders, we're going to use this in just a second. Terry says, well loved. I agree. Yep. My plates are well loved. And I have lots of plates. And finally, I just said, this has to go. And I just, you know, I trashed it. Like, I do not need to hold on to this plate that, you know, you could eat a bowl of cereal out of because it's so warped. Okay. So this piece of DSP is just layering. So I've covered all of the Misty Moonlight, but it's nice because the Misty Moonlight coordinates with all the paper and it looks great inside. Okay, so I said we were going to use this. So from our last card, do you remember when we cut this out? So this was the frame of our, I'll just bring the card back in here. So this was this piece right here, just taking that out. Now we're going to run this through the folder. And because there is a definite print to this, I am putting it in, you know, and I'm kind of looking at what I'm doing. I'm not just throwing it in willy-nilly. I'm trying to line it up so it looks good. And again, the plate for that is going to be #1, a clear plate, your embossing folder, and then a clear plate on top of that. Too far away again. Okay, here it is. This would be a good folder to do some pre-inking with too, so it kind of shows up some of these details. But look how fun that is. And that's going to go on our card like so. And let's see, we have some other pretty things we need to do. We're going to do, in your kit there, you have another piece of white cardstock. So we're going to pull out that piece of white cardstock and we're going to do some stamping. Stamping with the pieces from Sentimental Park Journey. So I've got the floral images. And this time I'm going to stamp in Misty Moonlight. Okay? Not quite as dark as Night of Navy. Such a pretty blue though. But my images are dirty from the last one. So I'm going to clean those up real quick. And this is what I'm going to stamp here. I'm going to stamp 2 of the bunches in Misty Moonlight. So we need 2 of these. Ta-da. And I'm going to do 2 of the single flower. 1 and 2. And then I also want to stamp the leaf image. Okay, so the stems. And I'm going to stamp these in Misty Moonlight as well. And I need 2 of them. And I think that's it for now. And then we're going to die cut. We're going to die cut one of, so this is the second to smallest, okay? And I should have done it first, okay? But that needs to go right in there. And so I don't quite have enough room, but I do have enough room on this piece of white. Okay, so we'll die cut that. And we're going to die cut all these pieces. So if you remember back from that camp, all of these do have pieces to cut out. So that has a die cut. This does. I've done it ahead of time, so you don't have to sit and watch me die cut a whole bunch of pieces. So let me bust these out. Here they are. Okay. We have that. And let me die cut this white. We need that one. Get everything going here. So we need that. And we're going to stamp one more frame. So from our boho blue, we're going to do some more countryside corners. Okay. And so what I want to stamp here, it's the same polka dot one. That's convenient. And we're going to stamp it in blue. Okay. So same color as before. And this time we're going to make a frame. So go ahead and pull that image like so. And now die-wise, you're going to need 2 dies this time. So we're going to use the one we just used. Okay, so we have this one. So we're going to tape this one on. Get that set just right where you like it. And now we need the one for the inside of this. And so that's going to be this one here. So we're going to line up and we're going to do 2 at a time. Okay, and just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but that looks pretty good. So, well, the outside one doesn't look so great. Okay, that's better. Okay, so we're going to run that through the Big Shot, the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Okay, now let's see what we have. So you can use this for another project, kind of a nice basic label. Now look how cool that is. All right, nice. I really like how these, you know, they all fit together. Okay, and we have one more little bit of die cutting, and that is from your piece of, okay, I just already had mine die cut ahead of time. From this piece, we're going to die cut the big leaf from the Sentimental Journey. So I have one of those, got that done ahead of time, so we don't have to sit and watch me do that, right? And one last die cut, and that would be to give yourself another balmy blue banner, okay? And I believe that is going to be everything we need to put this card together. So first things first, we're going to, let's kind of put some of our pieces together so we don't lose them. But let's go ahead and glue our frame to our white label. Okay. Easy. All right. There's that. And inside this, I'm going to stamp with boho blue. I want a lighter blue. I'm going to stamp the Let's Celebrate. And so you saw me put that back on the block earlier. So, yep, that's boho blue. Okay, just gently ink it up. And then we'll take that right down in the center. Cool. Yeah, Terry, I agree. It is one of those folders that it's like, ooh, that's kind of pretty. And you know the nice thing about embossing folders is they don't break the bank. Okay, so this is another one of those really fine lined, this one says happy birthday. And so I'm just barely inking up, just tapping. And now I'm gonna be gentle with my stamping here. And hopefully it looks good. Nope, it's crooked and it's in the wrong color. Okay, good thing that I actually cut a bunch of these little banners out, knowing I'd make a mistake. And actually, because it's like, sometimes it's like, oh man, it doesn't look so good. I wanted this to be in Misty Moonlight. I wanted it to be a little darker. So here you go, folks. Scratch that, take two, and I'm bring it a little closer to me and just touch. Okay, and I'm not quite as crooked as I was the first time, but still a little bit. But you know what? We're not machines. It's handmade. So we need that. Now we need to do some definite coloring here. We've got a lot to color. So I'm going to do the same thing that we did on our very first card. And that is to have some fun. I'm going to bring in the Balmy Blue, to pick up the Balmy Blue in the card, obviously. And I'm gonna pick up the boho blue again. Those same two colors, and I'm using my blender pen again. So I'm just gonna pick up ink, and we're just gonna do some quick blending here. Nothing like crazy fancy, but what I do want to do that's kind of crazy fancy is now I'm gonna switch to the boho. And I'm just going to kind of do like a circle in each of these. I don't know why. It's just kind of what I did on my first one. And it's just kind of it's not fancy. It's just, I kind of did it. I did it quick. I let the artistic side of my brain just take over. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just do a quick color. And I don't care if some of it's light and some of it's dark, but I do want to add that second color swoosh in there to create a little bit more of that dimension. Okay. There's that one. And this one, watch this. Let me see if it'll do it, because I stamped it last night and die cut it, but it's still working. And what I'm doing is I'm just blending the ink from the image. So just kind of a hazy little look with that. So we'll do the same thing with this one. It really blends a lot more when the image is recently stamped. But like I say, I stamped it and die cut it last night, but look how cool that is. And now let's add some more ink. And so I'm just coming in here. This is boho. I'm just coloring some of these images. Maybe not as intense as I did those first flowers, because I want those first flowers to stand out just a little bit more. Okay, just swoosh color quick. Come back in with a little bit of that balmy just to give us some different dimensions. Okay, but fun. Okay, there's that. And look, this is our last one. We'll do the berries again in the boho. And then I'll swirl some boho in some of these flowers. And then I'll go back through and again, add just a little bit of balmy here and there. So have you guys used blender pens recently? Boy, it's been a long time. When we had pastels, you know, remember the little square blocks? Not the pastels that we have now, but the other ones, the big old 48 palette. Back when we had that, I used a blender brush all the time. But, okay, so there it is. Yep, Terry, you got to pull them out. It's just a different look. It's kind of fun to change it up. Okay, so now let's put this all together here. And the first thing I'm going to do to put this all together is I'm going to take my leaves, and we did this quite a bit in our stamp camp, and that is to trim this inside. I'm just taking the stem right out of there, okay? So that's all I did is I cut the stem out. We'll do the same thing on this one. So my scissor is just coming in and following that line of the die cut. Okay, so we'll get rid of that as well. Now I'm also going to cut this leaf apart. So following the line here, so I have that. And I kind of didn't get it close enough. See how it's got just a little bit of a jag there. So I want to smooth that out. That's better. That way it looks more like that's the way the die cut came. Okay, so smooth that one out. And now I'm going to do the same thing we did on the stamped image, and that is to take off this inside stem. Now this way I have lots more foliage to work with. And I don't need this big old long piece. We'll just tear that off. Okay, now I have all my pieces ready. Let's put this one on with dimensionals, and it's going to sit over on the left side of our card here. I'm sorry, the right side. A little backwards here sometimes. So it's going to sit on this right side, and I'm just going to kind of overlap that little bit of print. So just a little bit of a different type of layout. Mixing it up just a little bit. So there's that. And now I'm going to set this one on, and this one's also going to go on with dimensionals. So I've got one, and I'm going to kind of put this one not on the end because it's going to cantilever over the edge, but so I want that dimensional to land on top of this. And so this one's going to go right about here. Okay, so this frame and everything kind of helps balance to this other side here. So that's there. Now let's take our happy birthday. And we're going to put this on with dimensionals. And I'm going to cut these minis down again because they do show. They fit, but when you put it on, you're like, what's that hanging out? And you can see a little bit of the white. So you have to do just a little finagling. And this is going to set right in here. Maybe over just a little further. Just like that. So let's celebrate happy birthday. And our twine, I should have maybe put this down first, but that's okay. I'm folding it in, remember we folded it in half earlier to get, so this is the other half of that twine. And so I just made bunny ears and just making a bow here. Oh, Olive Barnes. Aren't you traveling, Olive? Didn't I see you were on the road, on a road trip of some sort? Via Facebook, that is. Okay, so I've got this bow ready. I'm going to put a glue dot on the knot since I forgot to put it on earlier. So just a glue dot right on the knot. Hello, Marcia. Okay. And so now I'm going to take this. Like I say, I should have put this on just a little bit earlier. That way I'm not going under, but going under works as well. Come on. Get in there. Ah, did it. The glue dot didn't want to go at first. Okay. So just kind of get that to where you want it. Okay. Voila. Now we have all these cool, fun floral images to put on. So what I'm going to do is kind of dry fit some of my pieces here first to see if that's where I really want them to go. Kind of want a little bit more like that. So these two are going to go in first. Okay, so we'll do a couple dimensionals on this one. And I kind of want this to eke out and across. And then this one's coming this way, but I just want to make sure I don't put a dimensional right there where it's going to collide. So maybe I'll use a mini here. Okay. Like so. Cool. All right. So that's how I'm starting with this. So Marcia says she's here lurking. You don't have to lurk. You can totally join, join along with us. So that leaf is going to tuck in there. So I'm going to put a dimensional on that one. Once you're in the backstage pass, you can come and hang out whenever you want. Everybody's invited. Okay, and now we'll do this one kind of opposite. Nestle that one right in there. Fun dimension. And now these two are going to kind of be more of the star of the show here. And they're going to kind of work in right in here. And so for this one, I know this is weird, but I'm going to tuck this dimensional kind of underneath there and there so that it can help hold my flower. But if I had put that on there, it would have been a little bit teetery, lopsided, and I didn't want that. So we'll kind of go there. And so it's stuck. And now we'll do a whole one right on there. And again, I'm putting the dimensional down so that it's going to be even and not lopsided. We'll do that flower right there. So to me, layering those on this one that's already stamped just kind of makes it look a little bit more full. And so this flower here, or these leaves rather, I'm going to put a dimensional on the back side. And yes, it's not, totally, but it's not going to show. And I'm going to tuck it right under in here, like so. Come this way just a little bit. And now we'll use these to kind of flesh out this area in here. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just kind of stick a dimensional on there and tuck it in. You could use glue, but I kind of want them to have a little bit of lift, if you know what I mean. So we'll just kind of work that one in there. And then this last leaf, I'm going to just kind of make it look like it's part of that one right in there. And I'll glue that one. There you have it. We're going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella because we love her, right? Am I the only one that's obsessed with her? Okay, so there's that leaf right in there. Okay, so Miss Wink, here you go. And I'm going to do the same thing we did on the very first card, and that is to give the Wink of Stella. We'll put Wink of Stella on the flowers and the leaves. And then we're going to use up the opal dots, the opal rounds. We're going to use those up on this. There's that. We can give it just a little bit of sparkle in other areas, right? Give a little flick. Okay, so I have a few more of these opal rounds, and I have these little navy blue happiness abounds. So we're going to use them all. So with the little happiness abounds, these are Night of Navy, happiness abounds. some old ones. I don't remember how long ago that was. It was a while. It's like, can I get this off? I'm going to do a couple of these down here. We'll just do some blue down here. And then we'll put the opal rounds on the flowers. So a couple blue right there. And I've got a fuzzball on my scissor here. I guess I could be using my new Take Your Pick tool, but this one was handy. Okay, so this one's going to kind of go up here. So we've got two friends and a neighbor over here. And so with the opal rounds, it looks like I have 3 smalls and a large. I'm going to do a large on one of these guys, and I'll do a small on the other. And just the 2 big flowers are going to get them. Okay, there you have it. We've got our countryside corners with a mashup with the Sentimental Park. So there's my original there that I was working off of. Anyhow, it's pretty. This is the first that I've used it. I pulled this out just this week. I've had it for a little while and I just busted it out. I'm really, really, really liking the way you can create frames and labels with the countryside corner dies here. So here's what we've been making today. So we have our matted that are, recessed. And then we started out with our other one here. So definitely, loving the blues for today's cards. Let me know what you've been making. Go ahead if it doesn't have to be with this, but maybe you use the dies for something else. Would love to see what you've been making. Don't forget, tomorrow is the last day to register for a kit for our timeless arrangements class. And that's going to be in 2 weeks. But I need to know by tomorrow because I'm actually going out of town tomorrow, and then we'll be back for a few days, and then I'm leaving for San Jose. So I have to kind of get it all done a little bit ahead of time. So thank you for everybody for your comments. I appreciate it. And I will get these photoed and posted a little later today. Have a good day, and everybody get your fingers inky and sticky and have some fun stamping. I'll check you next week. Bye-bye.